What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. I'm here with Rich Davis of Glove Refresh once again, and he's back on the channel to talk about his business and his story. Similar to videos in the past, I'll be interviewing Rich and asking him questions about his business, but most importantly though, I'll be letting him tell his story. Rich, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Andrew. Happy to be on here again. The last video was fun to do, so I'm glad we're getting to do this again.
Me too, man. Me too. I'm really excited to talk about your story and just talk about Glove Refresh in general. So, without further ado, let's get into the questions. Rich, can you first talk to me about your earliest moments with baseball, what that looked like for you growing up?
Yeah, so growing up, I was always in a big baseball family. My uncle played, or both my uncles played. My cousin was super big into it, and he was a few years older than me. And so, that was just what our families would do. Like on tournaments, they were always talking about his games, and then so I was obviously very competitive growing up, and so I wanted to compete with him and do the same sport and try to get as good as I could be too. Yeah, I grew up in Florida. That was where I did Little League and all that stuff there. I actually played in Williamsport, Pennsylvania for Little League. Was where I played there, so that was a pretty cool experience. And then moved to Kansas, and that was where I played high school and college ball there. But yeah, I was pretty much just in the family growing up. That was the big sport that we did, so I was just what I did and what was I was competitive with.
So when you were growing up, you obviously playing baseball. What was your main position?
First starting out, I was a pitcher, but that was like in coach pitch, so I don't really know if that necessarily counts. And then Little League, I was like in third base, and then I took a nice line drive off the shin, and then I was scared to death to play infield for the rest of my life. And then that was when I switched to outfield and then pitching. And then obviously as the pitching got better, my batting was never the best, and so I focused on just pitching, and then just was a PO in college.
Where'd you go to college?
That was my baseball career. It was Kansas Westland in Salina, Kansas. It's a smaller NAIA school. I mean, they were pretty good when I was there. They weren't crazy, but after I left is when their program really started growing. Like I think like the last 2 years they've been like the regional champs and stuff like that, and their program's really doing good.
When you're going throughout your baseball journey, what kind of created your love and appreciation for baseball gloves? Was there a specific moment, or was it just kind of something that kind of grew over time?
Definitely something that grew over time. The very first glove that I got, I guess I got it over here. I can grab it real quick. So this was like my first ever like nicer glove that I got, was a Custom Rico. And that was when I was a freshman in high school. When I got that thing was so stinking stiff. And so I learned a lot about how to break it in just from figuring out what worked on that one. And then, yeah, over the years, I was a PO. So like my glove was really the only thing I carried around, like a lot of tournaments. So I didn't even take bats because I knew I wasn't going to hit. So it was just me and my glove. And so I carried it with me, made sure all the knots were perfect and everything like that. I'm a really meticulous person as far as like, keeping things organized and looking neat and clean. And then I guess I could get into that too, because it's talk about like appreciation for baseball gloves. And like, I guess like learning how they work. Like I'm always a very curious person. I want to understand how things work. I always used to love tearing stuff apart, like whether it's a vacuum cleaner or whatever. And as I got older, it turned into dirt bikes and stuff like that. But then I got to the point where I had a couple laces break on one of the gloves, and I was like, laces are replaceable. So I was like, can't be too hard to replace it. So I'll just figure it out. So I, tore it apart, took a bunch of pictures, bought some lace on Amazon, and got after it from there.
So what was your favorite memory if you had to choose with like one of your baseball gloves? Like what is the most nostalgic, memorable baseball glove if you had to pick?
Designing my first custom glove in college, that was a pretty cool experience. I grabbed that one here too. That was at Kansas Westland. I don't know. I thought that was a pretty cool experience. Everybody on the team, getting to design like the same brand of glove at the same time, so you can kind of see like everybody's personality and like how they choose to do their gloves. And I'm in love with that glove. It's the best design I thought I could come up with. So I really like that one.
So getting into just your business and Glove Refresh, how did Glove Refresh start, and like what was its original beginnings?
Yeah, this is the question. It's like I don't know how much time you got, because we could go on for quite a while about this.
We got time, Rich.
So like when I started, I didn't even really know that like the glove business was what I wanted to start, because originally I was working at a motorcycle shop and just kind of into that. But then I just got to the point where I was like, I wanted to set like a bigger goal for myself and not just have like an hourly wage job where I work at and try to slowly work my way up. Like I wanted like the biggest goal I could possibly think of. And I was like, I'd want to like, start a nationwide company. I think that would be like a fantastic goal to have. And then for a while, like I had no clue what I wanted to do. And then after doing more research, I was like, I need to do something that like obviously I'm passionate about and have like more knowledge than like just an ordinary person. And I was like, well, the only thing I had done previously was when I was a junior in high school is when I started doing the gloves. And I did that just kind of like a little side thing. I wouldn't necessarily call it a business, but like I knew how to do it, and like I would do it for friends and, you know, stuff every once in a while. But yeah, then after working for other people and like seeing how they run their businesses and stuff like that, I'm like, I feel like I could figure this out. So yeah, while I was working at the motorcycle shop, decided that I wanted to quit and start up a business. And then I'd always had that thought in my head, in the back of my head, feeling like I kind of gave up on the glove business. Like it necessarily like never took off, and like I never quit on or anything. I just like stopped doing it. And I was like, I feel like if I put all my effort into it, like it could have been something, because like there is a need for people, you know, needing glove work done. And it's like people that do need glove work done, well, who do you go to? You know, like there's small guys here and there, but there's no like big national brand company that like you can reliably go to and get consistent results, like with fast turnaround times, and like, you know, everybody can send it to them. Because right now all the relacers are just single guys doing it out of their shop, which they do amazing jobs, but they're just not able to handle a large workload or be able to, you know, advertise and market nationally. So that was the big opportunity that I saw, was if somebody could figure out how to do it, you know, with multiple employees and actually form a business out of it, that I believe it would work. And so yeah, after saving up my money for about a year, I decided that I was going to quit my job and then move down to Florida, because I was originally in Kansas, which, you know, they do have baseball there, but it's not necessarily a year-round thing. Like once winter hits, nobody cares about baseball. But I was like, yeah, when I lived in Kansas, I would always go to Florida in the winters to play baseball there, because the weather's nice and they'd have year-round tournaments. And so I decided to quit my job after I haven't had enough money and was going to move down to Florida. I think like so this was after I'd already quit my job. In 2 weeks before I moved down here to Florida, place I was going to go to ended up getting hit by Hurricane Ian. And I'd already quit my job. I was supposed to move down here in 2 weeks, and the place I was going to go to got hit by a hurricane. And I was like, what the heck do I do? And then thankfully my parents live down here in Tallahassee, and they're like, hey, like, we know like your plan didn't really work out the way you wanted to. If you need to come stay with us or whatever, like, you know, we'll make things work, you know, while you try to get this thing up and running. So thankfully they had enough room where I was able to come down here and stay with them and get things up and going. But yeah, like the first 8 months of it, you know, I was struggling. I was honestly losing money. And it's like going 8 months without, you know, making a single dollar after, you know, having a decent paying job. Like I used to have a motorcycle, a really nice mountain bike, you know, a truck, like, you know, I had, you know, some toys to play with. Ended up selling like all that stuff to move down here and try to keep this business going. I kept having that thought in the back of my head. It's like, I don't want to give up again. Like have to think in a couple years, like what would have happened if I actually, you know, gave it my all. And so I, you know, just took away the option for me quitting. It was like, what do I need to do to get this to work? Like, no matter how long it takes. And it's like going 8 months when you're not making any money after, you know, having a full-time job is really tough to like figure out your motivation to keep going. Because it's like, you know, every night for, you know, months and months on end, I'm like, is this actually going to pay off, or am I just, you know, wasting my time and like losing a bunch of money? But then as we grew, I started starting to do the tournaments, and like just figuring out a way to get in was like one of the toughest parts. When I first moved here, I actually went to some like high school practices, like preseason games, and then would stay late and try to talk to the coaches after the practices to try to let them see me to come out to the practice to like do work there. So that way, like, you know, a large group of baseball kids would see what I could do. I ended up doing that for 2 high schools. I mean, there were some other guys that would just straight up like turn me down to my face and like, you know, were not very nice to me. So like I would sit out there at their baseball game for like 3 hours and then go to talk to them after the game, and then they just like brush me off. And so like that was really tough to get through. You know, I tried calling tournament directors plenty of times, like trying to explain to them what I would do and like ask them if I can come set up at their park. And I had a couple of them like hang up on me or like, you know, say no. And so that was tough. Like, you know, you're not making any money and you think this is your one way to like, you know, finally break through, and then, you know, you get denied, and it sucks. But yeah, just continuing to like keep showing up and, you know, just keep trying like day after day. And then eventually I started posting videos about me going to the tournaments that I would do. And, you know, and then it just started picking up from there. The videos ended up blowing up, and I went from like, you know, 800 followers up to about like 8,000 or something, like fairly quickly. And then so that was when I started using more of my video skills to try to grow that even more. And then yeah, over time, I obviously got to the point where I couldn't handle doing this all by myself anymore. So the next step was finding another person to help me relace. And I had a couple other guys that I had before Decker, like just part-time, but now it's like starting to see like what it actually takes to make a great company, and like how much foundational work you have to do as far as like the processes of everything, and like how you're going to take care of your employees, and what all that looks like. But now we're to the point now, I don't know, pretty close to like 4 of us full time. And so everybody's got their own jobs that they do. They know what needs to get done. We have meetings in the morning, talk about how everybody's doing, and the tasks that need to get done for that day. Figuring out ways we can grow. So so that's pretty much like a kind of quick rundown of what it's looked like up until this point. I'm sure there's plenty of stuff that I've missed, or could go on a little bit more about, but pretty base version of it.
It's absolutely incredible. I think a lot of people can kind of relate, to that struggle. I mean, kind of like baseball, you go through a lot of failure, right? There's a lot of good moments, there's a lot of bad moments, and sometimes you leave the field and you're like, crap, like that sucked, And like, I feel like that's a really good representation of like baseball, life, a lot of different things. What has been the most enjoyable moment about owning your business?
Just like how proud of you are of yourself, like of the work that you put in, like when it actually does start to pay off. Like you've been miserable for so long and then finally have a breakthrough for something. And just that feeling that you get. I'm not gonna lie, like my first year starting this, there was plenty of times I was crying. Like I'm not a super emotional person, but that stuff is tough. I really enjoyed working with a team now. That was a big thing for me. Is it sucked doing it by myself, like trying to find the motivation to come out here and work and try to grow this thing every day on my own. And it's like now I got 3 other people I consider like pretty close friends, and it's like they're out here helping me try to achieve this mission that I've set for us. And that's really cool so I was never a manager before. I never like had people like responsible for and stuff like that. So that's been a cool thing for me as far as the growth journey. That was a big thing too, is like it's a lot of a personal growth journey that you go through, figuring out the stuff that you're not great at, and then obviously being vulnerable about it, figuring out how you're going to change and improve.
With all that happening, what have you learned from like the very challenging moments? Obviously you talked about like the struggle and different things like that, but can you kind of explain in depth a little more about like how those challenging moments kind of helped like what they did for your business?
I mean, it really just comes down to like putting in the effort and like doing the work, and not necessarily caring about like what the results are going to be. Like just like showing up anyways. One thing that me and Noah like to say a lot is, just keep showing up, and it's like, one day you'll have a lucky day. It's like, some days for like no reason, we'll just have a spike in orders, and it's like, we're having a lucky day today. That's why you got to show up every single day, because, those don't come around very often. So you got to take advantage of them when they do.
Talk about like spike in days and different things like that. So what does a typical day look like for you in owning and running your business?
So that's definitely changed a lot as we've grown. Very first starting out, a lot of it was, trying to think of like have a vision of what the whole business would look like, and like the steps that I need to go through to prepare myself for it. So the beginning was, figuring out like what the uniforms are going to look like, and all the design stuff and the way I wanted things to look. It was like, all right, well, how am I going to get people to find out about me? And then that got to be a lot. I was doing everything on my own, going to the tournaments, doing all the gloves here, and it was just a lot of like learning how to hire other people and stuff like that. I was only working on gloves for like maybe 2 or 3 hours a day when I first started, and the rest of the time was just figuring out how to get more gloves in. But then I got to the point where I had too many gloves to do, and then that wasn't the problem anymore. It was figuring out how I can get them out of the shop quicker. But now I'll just walk you through like my full day. So I usually wake up at about 6, and then I go to the gym at 7, work out from 7 till 9, 8 or 9, something like that. Come back home, shower, eat breakfast, and then from like 10 to 11 is kind of like my preparation time. So if there's any like personal stuff I need to get done, like folding laundry, stuff like that, I'll knock that out between 10 and 11. And then before the rest of the team shows up, I'll come out here and try to make a to-do list and get everything prepped for the day, so that way when they come in, we know what needs to get done that day. If anything changed from yesterday or whatever, any updates I got for them, stuff like that. We have 15-minute meetings that we do at the beginning of every day. And then I'll usually hang out in here for like the next hour, like while things are getting started, make sure everything's going okay. And then once I know everybody's like, knows what needed to get done and they're on their tasks, then I'll go back inside and then figure out my to-do list for the day. Whether that's, doing the financial stuff in QuickBooks, or if that's, contacting more tournament directors, or editing videos, working on the website, whatever that stuff is. And it's always awesome if I get bored in there doing computer work. I can come back out here for a little bit and do some glove work and hang out with them. And then we work until 5:30 rolls around. We have another meeting about how the day went, plans for the rest of the week or the next day. Usually Decker and John will leave, and then me and Noah will hang out and like try to like do more to-do lists for the rest of the week. And then what other stuff we need to talk about as far as future stuff. Yeah, it's I really am liking the stage that the business is at right now,
Mhm.
because it's like still really small to where things don't feel super serious. But yet I also have other people that I can, you know, have do stuff for me.
So what do you hope to accomplish moving forward with Glove Refresh? Can you talk about like the future plans? You know, what do you want to do moving forward with your company?
I don't know how many secrets I want to give you. I don't know. I know there's a lot of people that follow me, what I do, and try to, you know, imitate it as quickly as possible.
Right.
I can read you what our mission, vision, and values are, because I did have to update those for the website. So I think these are probably ones that I'm going to keep for quite a while.
Okay.
So our vision is to make professional quality glove services easily accessible and effortless for everyone. Meaning it's like, you know, wherever you live at in the country, if you have a lace that busts on you, like I want you to be able to, you know, go and get it fixed or take it to someone, you know, reasonably quickly and like have it back like in a week. So I don't know like what that looks like, if it's, you know, us having a large warehouse where I have a lot of workers and people just ship them in nationally, or if that's stores throughout the country that people can actually go to in person, or if that's like, you know, having a fleet of vans that are like at multiple tournaments like throughout the country. So yeah, I definitely think some type of nationwide program that's able to handle all that stuff is definitely the big goal. And then yeah, the mission is to become the largest and most known glove care company in the nation. And then obviously once we hit that goal, then we'll have to create a new mission. But for now, that's what the goal is. So we're focusing on services right now, you know, just break-ins, refreshes, cleanings, relaces, all that, those main four. And then once we get to be the best that we possibly can at those, then we're going to start expanding into, you know, selling the laces, the tools, needles, all the other stuff that you're going to need if you want to work on it yourself. And then even get to the point where it's like, if you want to have your own, you know, relacing business, like, you know, can we give you the tools to be able to do that and, you know, help you with marketing and sales and getting other employees for you, stuff like that. But that would be getting more into franchising at that point. And I'm also, you know, really excited about redoing the design for the Glove Smasher and then trying to sell those, because we've had a lot of requests for those. But I like to focus on, you know, getting good at one thing, because there's always going to be distractions that are going to pull you away from your main focus. And so you guys remind yourself, you know, what it is that you're actually trying to accomplish. And then once you do that, then you can open up, you know, to other avenues. So yeah, that's the plan for the future.
Finally, the last and most important question in this interview. If you had to pick one glove to be your all-time favorite glove, what would it be and why?
All right, so I had two options I was thinking about for this one. One was like, you know, personal attachment for me. Like if I was stranded on some like, you know, island or whatever, like what's the one glove that I would want to have? And then so I gotta go with my personal pitching one. This was the one that I had from this was my senior season. After high school, our summer league team was American Legion. So that season was by far like favorite summer of my life. We went 35-2 that year, won state. I mean, we had some dudes on that team. It was a lot of fun. Like when you only lose 2 games the whole year, like it's pretty cool feeling. So yeah, I would have to say, because that was the only season I used this glove for, so that's a pretty special one to me. But the second one was like if I was going to buy a new glove, like out of all the different options, what I would pick. Now I don't know, but I'm really liking those Japanese catcher's mitts. I think those were sweet. That orange one that I had, I posted on my page a while ago. I was in love with that thing. That was quite the piece of leather.
Thank you so much, Rich, for joining me in this collaborative interview, and I look forward to working with you and your team more in the future. Thanks for coming on. It was a pleasure talking to you again.
Not a problem, Andrew. As always, love working with you. Had a blast.
Thank you, Rich.